In the bustling corridors of Seattle Memorial Hospital, where the scent of antiseptic mingled with hope and despair, Isabel Ferreira had found her purpose. As a clinical pharmacist, she spent her days ensuring that patients received the correct medications, double-checking dosages, and counseling doctors on drug interactions. Her precision had saved lives. Her attention to detail was legendary among the nursing staff. But Isabel's professional success couldn't fill the void in her personal life. At 34, she lived alone in a modest apartment overlooking Puget Sound. 3 years ago, a miscarriage at 18 weeks had shattered her dreams of motherhood. The complications that followed left her unable to conceive. For months, she had withdrawn into her work, finding solace in prescription labels and pharmaceutical databases. Everything changed last spring when Dr. Thomas Wright joined the cardiology department. Tall and distinguished with graying temples, he carried himself with the confidence of a man who had spent decades mastering his craft. During their first consultation about a patient's medication regimen, Isabel was struck by his thoughtful questions and genuine concern for optimal outcomes. "You're thorough," Thomas had said, reviewing her notes. In cardiology, that attention to detail means everything. Their professional relationship evolved quickly into something more. Thomas was a widower, his wife Catherine having died suddenly from a heart attack 18 months prior. He was raising their 6-year-old son Noah alone, balancing demanding hospital shifts with parenthood. "It's been difficult," Thomas confided during their third coffee date in the hospital cafeteria. "Noah hasn't been the same since Catherine passed. He has these episodes, panic attacks, especially around medication. The therapists say it's trauma from watching his mother's medical crisis." Isabel's heart went out to both of them. "Children process grief differently," she said gently. "He probably associates medicine with losing his mother." Thomas looked at her with an expression that seemed almost relieved. "You understand. Most people just think he's being difficult." Their courtship was brief but intense. Within 3 months, Thomas proposed in the hospital's rooftop garden. "Noah needs stability," he said, "and I need someone who understands the medical world, who won't judge me for the long hours and emergency calls. You're perfect, Isabel." The wedding took place in a small ceremony at a waterfront venue. Noah, dressed in a miniature suit, stood beside his father, looking pale and withdrawn. When Isabel knelt down to his level afterward, offering him a small toy stethoscope, he flinched away. "It's okay, Noah," she said softly. "We're going to be friends." But Noah just stared at her with wide, fearful eyes. Moving into Thomas's spacious home in the Queen Anne neighborhood should have felt like a new beginning. The Victorian house had high ceilings, hardwood floors, and a stunning view of the city. Catherine's presence still lingered in family photographs on the mantel. A beautiful woman with dark hair and warm eyes, always smiling. "Should I put these away?" Isabel asked carefully one evening. "No," Thomas replied firmly. "No one needs to remember his mother. Besides, you're not replacing her. You're someone new in our lives." Isabel appreciated his sensitivity, though something in his tone felt almost like a warning. From the very first morning, Noah's medication phobia became immediately apparent. Isabel had prepared a healthy breakfast: whole grain pancakes, fresh fruit, and orange juice. Thomas emerged from his study carrying a small medicine bottle. "Noah needs his daily vitamin," Thomas explained, shaking out a chewable tablet. "He's been anemic since Catherine died, not eating well." The moment Noah saw the tablet, his face went white. "No!" he shrieked, pushing away from the table. "No medicine! No, no, no!" "Noah, it's just a vitamin," Thomas's voice grew stern. "You take this every day." But Noah was beyond reasoning. He ran to the corner of the kitchen, pressing himself against the wall, hyperventilating. His small body shook with terror that seemed far beyond a typical childhood tantrum. Isabel approached slowly, her pharmacist training kicking in. "Hey, Noah, look at me. You're safe. Nobody's going to force you to take anything." Thomas shot her an irritated look. "Isabel, he needs to take his vitamin. The pediatrician prescribed it." "Maybe we could try mixing it with applesauce, or crushing it into his juice." "He'll know," Thomas said flatly. "He always knows." Eventually, Thomas gave up for the morning, tossing the vitamin bottle onto the counter with frustration. Noah remained in the corner, breathing heavily, refusing to return to the table. Over the following weeks, the pattern repeated itself. Any medication, children's Tylenol for a fever, antibiotic cream for a scraped knee, even medicated cough drops, sent Noah into complete panic. He would cry, hide, sometimes even vomit from anxiety. "This can't continue," Thomas said one night after another difficult episode. "He's going to make himself sick." "Maybe we should take him back to the child psychologist. There might be trauma therapy techniques." "We've tried 3 different therapists," Thomas interrupted. "They all say the same thing: time, patience. But it's been 18 months, Isabel. At what point does patience become enabling?" Isabel couldn't argue with his frustration, but something about Noah's terror felt wrong to her professional instincts. She had worked with pediatric patients who feared needles or pills. This was different. This was the reaction of a child who had witnessed something truly terrifying. A month into the marriage, Isabel began experiencing unusual dizzy spells at work. During a routine physical, her physician, Dr. Patel, discovered Isabel's cholesterol levels had crept into the borderline high range. "Nothing serious," Dr. Patel assured her, "but given your family history of heart disease, I'd like to start you on a low-dose statin, just preventative." Isabel filled her own prescription at the hospital pharmacy, smiling at the irony. Here I was, counseling hundreds of patients on medication compliance, now needing to practice what I preached. That evening, she showed Thomas the prescription bottle. "Looks like I'm officially middle-aged," she joked. "Cholesterol medication." Thomas examined the label with professional interest. "Atorvastatin, 10 milligrams. Good choice, very safe. Catherine was on the same medication before—" He trailed off, his expression darkening. "Before her heart attack?" "Yes, though it didn't help in the end." Thomas set the bottle down on the kitchen counter. "Make sure you take it consistently. Same time, every day. Lipid-lowering medication only works with compliance." "Yes, doctor," she said playfully, trying to lighten the mood. But Thomas didn't smile. "I'm serious. Heart disease killed Catherine at 35. I won't lose another wife to cardiovascular failure." The next morning, Isabel woke to find her pill bottle on the kitchen counter, moved from the bathroom. "Did you take your medication?" Thomas asked, pouring coffee. "Not yet. Why did you move it?" "I thought it should be somewhere more visible, so you remember." "Thomas, I'm a pharmacist. I think I can remember to take my own medication." "Catherine often forgot," he said quietly. "I don't want you to make the same mistake." The comment stung, but Isabel tried to understand. His wife's death had traumatized him. Of course he would be hypervigilant about heart health. What Isabel didn't notice was Noah watching from the doorway, his small face pale, his eyes fixed on the pill bottle with an expression of absolute terror. Over the next 2 weeks, strange things began happening with Isabel's medication. She would place the bottle in the bathroom, and it would appear in the kitchen. She would count 28 pills in the morning and find 30 by evening. The bottle seemed to move around the house of its own accord. "Have you been moving my medication?" Isabel asked Thomas one evening. "No, why would I? I looked up from his medical journal. Are you losing track of your doses?" "No, never mind." But Isabel couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. As a pharmacist, she was meticulous about tracking her medications. She knew exactly how many pills should be in her bottle. Then came the day she caught Noah in the act. Isabel had left work early feeling unwell, a migraine pounding behind her eyes. She arrived home to find the house quiet. Thomas was at the hospital for a double shift. As she headed upstairs to rest, she heard small sounds from the bathroom. Pushing open the door, she found Noah standing on a step stool, reaching into the medicine cabinet. Her pill bottle was open in his small hands. As she watched in shock, he carefully removed 3 pills and replaced them with identical-looking tablets from a vitamin bottle. "Noah!" Isabel's voice jumped him, nearly falling from the stool. The little boy's face went through a rapid succession of emotions: fear, guilt, determination. He clutched both bottles to his chest. "What are you doing with my medication?" Noah's eyes filled with tears, but he didn't speak. He just stood there, trembling, holding the bottles like they were grenades. Isabel knelt down, keeping her voice gentle despite her racing heart. "Noah, I need you to give me those bottles. You can't play with medicine. It's dangerous." "I'm not playing," Noah whispered, his voice so quiet Isabel almost missed it. "I'm helping." "Helping how, sweetheart?" But Noah shook his head violently and pushed past her, running to his room. Isabel heard the door slam and lock. She looked down at her medication bottle, her hands shaking. Opening it, she examined the pills inside. They looked identical to her prescription atorvastatin, same size, same color. But something made her slip one into her pocket. The next day, at work, Isabel took the pill to the hospital's pharmaceutical testing lab. "Hey, Marcus," she said to the lead technician, "could you run a quick analysis on this for me? I think there might have been a manufacturing error." "No rush." "Sure thing, Isabel. Give me an hour." An hour later, Marcus called her back to the lab, his expression confused. "Isabel, where did you get this pill?" "From my prescription bottle." "Why?" "Because this isn't atorvastatin. It's ascorbic acid, vitamin C. High dose, about 500 milligrams. Completely different compound. If someone at the pharmacy dispensed this by mistake—" "They didn't," Isabel said, her mind racing. "Thank you, Marcus. Can you keep this between us for now?" Walking back to her office, Isabel's thoughts spun. Noah had been replacing her cholesterol medication with vitamins. But why? A 6-year-old child couldn't possibly understand the implications of medication substitution, unless he had seen someone else do it. That evening, Isabel waited until Noah was in bed before confronting Thomas. "We need to talk about Noah's behavior today. I caught him tampering with my medication." Thomas looked up from his laptop, his expression darkening. "What do you mean, tampering?" "He was replacing my pills with vitamins. I had one analyzed at the hospital lab." For a moment, something flickered across Thomas's face. Was it fear? But it vanished so quickly Isabel wasn't sure she had seen it at all. "That's disturbing," Thomas said slowly. "His medical phobia is getting worse. Now he's interfering with other people's treatments." "Thomas, he said he was helping. What could that mean?" "Who knows what goes through his mind?" Thomas closed his laptop with more force than necessary. "The kid is traumatized. He probably thinks all medication is dangerous because his mother died despite taking her heart pills. It's irrational childhood logic." "Should we take him back to therapy?" "Of course!" Thomas's voice was sharp. "This is unacceptable behavior. If he's going to sabotage medical treatment, there's something seriously wrong." Isabel felt defensive of Noah despite the situation. "He's just a child, Thomas. A scared child." "A child who could hurt someone with this behavior," Thomas countered. "What if he switches medication for a patient with a serious condition? What if he does this at school?" The argument escalated, ending with Thomas sleeping in his study. Isabel lay awake, her mind churning. Something about the whole situation felt wrong. Noah's terror of medication, Catherine's sudden death despite cardiac treatment, Thomas's intense vigilance about Isabel's pill-taking, and now Noah had been replacing her medication with vitamins, claiming he was helping. The puzzle pieces didn't fit together, but Isabel couldn't shake the feeling that they should. 2 weeks later, Thomas announced a medical conference in Boston. 3 days, he said. Important symposium on new cardiac treatments. I'm presenting a paper. Isabel felt a strange mixture of relief and apprehension. We'll be fine. Noah and I will have some bonding time. Thomas frowned. Make sure he doesn't have access to any medications. Lock the medicine cabinet if you have to, after what happened with your pills. I will. Don't worry. The morning Thomas left, Isabel noticed an immediate change in Noah. As his father's car pulled out of the driveway, the little boy's shoulders visibly relaxed. He even smiled for the first time in weeks. What would you like for breakfast, Noah? I asked. Pancakes? With chocolate chips? Absolutely. We spent the morning cooking together, Noah actually laughing as he helped stir the batter. Isabel's heart swelled. This was the child Thomas had described when they first met. Sweet, curious, affectionate. Where had this buoyed them hiding? After lunch, they went to the local park. Noah ran and played with other children, his previous withdrawn demeanor completely gone. On the swings, he shouted, "Higher, Mama Isabel! Push me higher!" It was the first time he'd called her any variation of Mom, and Isabel felt tears spring to her eyes. That evening, they ordered pizza and watched animated movies together. Noah snuggled against Isabel on the couch, something he had never done before. As the credits rolled, he looked up at her with serious eyes. "Mama Isabel?" "Yes, sweetheart?" "Can I tell you a secret? A big secret?" Isabel's heart began to pound, but she kept her voice calm.
"Of course you can tell me anything." Noah glanced toward the front door, as if checking that his father hadn't returned early. Then he whispered, "I need to tell you about the medicine. About what Daddy did to Mommy." Time seemed to stop. Isabel gently turned off the television and gave Noah her full attention. "What about the medicine, Noah?" "Mommy was sick," Noah began, his voice trembling. "Her heart was sick. The doctor gave her medicine in a bottle with a red lid. She took it every day, every morning." "Go on," Isabel encouraged softly. "But Daddy," Noah's eyes filled with tears, "Daddy had a different bottle. It looked the same, but it wasn't the same. Late at night when Mommy was sleeping, he would go to the bathroom. I saw him through the door. He would pour out Mommy's red pills and put in different pills. White ones from the other bottle." Isabel's blood turned to ice. "How long did you see him do this, Noah?" "Lots of times. Lots and lots. Mommy started feeling bad. She was tired all the time, her chest hurt. She told Daddy the medicine wasn't working." Tears were streaming down Noah's face now. "Daddy said she needed to take more, but the medicine wasn't real medicine. It was fake medicine. And then Mommy fell down. An ambulance came. They did the loud beepy thing on her chest, but she didn't wake up." Isabel pulled Noah into her arms, her own body shaking. "Oh, sweetheart. Oh, Noah." "The doctor said Mommy's heart got too sick," he sobbed into her shoulder. "They said the medicine didn't help, but it wasn't medicine. Daddy made it, not medicine. Daddy made Mommy die." Everything clicked into place with horrifying clarity. Thomas White, respected cardiologist, her husband, had been replacing Catherine's cardiac medication with placebos. Without proper treatment, her heart condition had deteriorated until she suffered a fatal heart attack. And Noah had witnessed everything. "Noah, is that why you switch my pills? Because you saw Daddy switch Mommy's pills?" Noah nodded frantically. "When I saw your medicine bottle, I got scared. What if Daddy switches your medicine too? What if you fall down like Mommy? So I switch it first. I put vitamins in so you don't take bad medicine." "I'm helping." Isabel's heart shattered. This child, this brave, terrified 6-year-old, had been trying to save her life the only way he knew, by replacing his father's crime in reverse. "Noah, you are so brave to tell me this. What your daddy did was very wrong, but you don't have to protect me by yourself anymore. We're going to get help from people whose job it is to stop bad things." "The police?" Noah whispered fearfully. "Yes, the police. They're going to make sure your daddy never hurts anyone again." "Will Daddy be mad at me?" "Your daddy is never going to scare you again," Isabel promised. "I'm going to keep you safe now, no matter what." That night, after Noah finally fell asleep clutching a stuffed bear, Isabel sat in the living room with her phone in shaking hands. She knew what she had to do, but the implications were staggering. Thomas White, respected cardiologist, her husband, was a murderer. At 10:47 p.m., she dialed 911. "I need to report a murder, and I need someone to come protect my stepson. His life might be in danger."
Detective Maria Santos and her partner, Detective Kyle Harrison, arrived within 30 minutes. Isabel had told the 911 operator it was a cold case that had just broken open, which elevated the priority. She met them at the door with her finger to her lips. "My stepson is sleeping. This is about his mother's death 18 months ago, and he's the witness." In the living room, Isabel recounted everything. Noah's behavior around medication, the switched pills, and finally his confession about watching Thomas replace Catherine's cardiac medication with placebos. "These are serious allegations," Detective Santos said carefully. "Do you understand what you're saying about your husband?" "I'm a clinical pharmacist. I understand exactly what I'm saying. Withholding prescribed cardiac medication from a patient with documented heart disease is tantamount to murder. Thomas is a cardiologist. He knew exactly what would happen if Catherine didn't receive proper treatment." Detective Harrison was taking detailed notes. "We'll need to speak with Noah." "In the morning, with a child psychologist present," Isabel insisted. "He's already terrified. This needs to be done right." "Agreed," Detective Santos nodded. "Mrs. White, or do you prefer Miss Ferreira?" "Isabel is fine." "Isabel, does your husband have access to pharmaceutical supplies through his hospital position?" "All physicians do, to some extent, but Thomas would have needed to obtain pills that visually matched Catherine's medication. Her prescription was—" Isabel paused, thinking back to Thomas's comments. "He said she was on atorvastatin, the same medication he prescribed for me." "The same medication your stepson was replacing with vitamins," Detective Harrison noted. "Because Noah was replicating what he saw his father do to his mother," Isabel said. "Don't you see? He was trying to save me." Detective Santos leaned forward. "Isabel, do you still have the bottle with the replaced pills? The ones you'd had analyzed?" "Yes, in my purse at the hospital. I brought home the original bottle but kept the sample I'd tested." "We'll need that as evidence. And we'll need to access Catherine White's medical records, her prescription history, autopsy reports, toxicology screens." "The autopsy would have shown atorvastatin in her system even if Thomas replaced her pills. If he substituted them with something like vitamin C or calcium tablets, they'd be broken down and metabolized without showing up as suspicious. The absence of atorvastatin would be attributed to noncompliance. But if she was compliant and her husband was replacing the medication," Detective Harrison met Isabel's eyes, "then the toxicology wouldn't show therapeutic levels of the drug. It would show she wasn't taking it, even though she thought she was." Detective Santos stood. "We need to move fast. Your husband returns when?" "Monday evening. Day after tomorrow. We'll station an officer outside tonight. Tomorrow morning, we conduct a formal interview with Noah, execute a search warrant on this residence, and obtain Catherine White's complete medical file. If your stepson's testimony is credible and the evidence supports it, we'll arrest Thomas White when he returns from Boston." After the detectives left, Isabel sat in the dark living room processing everything. Her husband, the man she'd married, shared a bed with, trusted, was a murderer. He'd killed his first wife by denying her life-saving medication and had likely planned to do the same to Isabel. The thought of how close she had come to Catherine's fate made her nauseous. If not for Noah's intervention, in a few months, her cholesterol medication might have been swapped for placebos too. Her cardiovascular health would have deteriorated. Perhaps Thomas would have increased her dosage, making her think she was receiving more aggressive treatment while actually receiving nothing. And then one day, her heart would have simply stopped. Isabel checked on Noah, who was sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. Tomorrow, his world would be turned upside down again. But this time, it would be for his protection, not his trauma. She gently smoothed his hair back from his forehead.
"You saved my life," she whispered. "Now I'm going to save yours." The next morning brought a flurry of activity. A child psychologist, Dr. Elena Morrison, arrived at 8 a.m. to interview Noah. Isabel sat beside him, holding his hand as he told his story again, this time more coherently, with heartbreaking details. "Daddy kept the white bottle in his office.
with the drawer with the lock. Sometimes I heard the drawer open late at night. He'd take Mommy's medicine bottle from the bathroom and go to his office. Then he'd come back with it." "How did you see him do the switching?" Dr. Morrison asked gently. "One time I couldn't sleep. I went to find Mommy, but she was already sleeping. I saw light under Daddy's office door. I looked through the crack. He had both bottles on his desk. He was pouring pills from Mommy's red bottle into the trash, then refilling it from the white bottle." The image of a 6-year-old child witnessing this, understanding that something was terribly wrong but not having the words or power to stop it, broke Isabel's heart. "Did you try to tell anyone?" Dr. Morrison asked gently. Noah nodded vigorously. "I told Mommy. I said, 'Daddy is changing your medicine.' But Mommy didn't understand. She said, 'Daddy is a doctor, sweetie. He knows about medicine.' I tried to tell her again, but she got confused. She was already getting sleepy all the time from her heart being sick." By mid-morning, police executed a search warrant on the house. In Thomas's locked office drawer, they found exactly what they were looking for: multiple bottles of generic calcium carbonate tablets, the same size, shape, and color as atorvastatin. They also found detailed financial records showing Thomas had taken out a substantial life insurance policy on Catherine just months before her death. $750,000, Detective Santos told Isabel. He doubled her coverage 2 months before her death. Catherine's medical records painted a damning picture. Her cardiologist had prescribed atorvastatin 40 milligrams daily for familial hypercholesterolemia, genetically high cholesterol. Her appointments showed progressively worsening symptoms: chest pain, fatigue, shortness of breath. The prescribing cardiologist had noted possible non-compliance with medication as her cholesterol levels remained dangerously high despite supposedly taking the statin regularly. The autopsy toxicology report was the final piece. While it showed calcium in her system, consistent with the placebo tablets, it showed no therapeutic levels of atorvastatin. The medical examiner had attributed this to the victim's non-compliance with prescribed treatment. "But she was compliant," Isabel said, reading the reports. "She took her pills every day, just like Noah testified. She just didn't know they weren't the right pills." "Her husband knew," Detective Harrison said grimly. As a cardiologist, Thomas Wright understood exactly what would happen if familial hypercholesterolemia went untreated. Atherosclerosis, coronary artery disease, myocardial infarction. He essentially gave her a death sentence. Isabel looked at the financial records spread across her dining table. He collected $750,000 from her death. And then he married me, another woman with a family history of heart disease, another woman he put on cholesterol medication. Detective Santos met her eyes. He was setting up the same scenario. If you died of a heart attack in a year or two, it would have looked like treatment failure, natural causes. He probably has life insurance on you too. "Check the office filing cabinet," Isabel said quietly. "That's where he keeps the insurance paperwork." They found it within minutes. A $600,000 life insurance policy on Isabel, taken out 2 weeks after their wedding. Isabel had signed the papers without reading them carefully, trusting her husband's explanation that it was standard financial planning for married couples. "He's a serial killer," Isabel whispered. "He marries women, insures them, and slowly kills them by denying medical treatment while pretending to be a concerned husband, all while collecting insurance money and using his medical expertise to make it look natural," Detective Santos added. "If not for Noah witnessing the medication swap and bravely replicating it to protect you, Thomas Wright would have gotten away with it again." Thomas Wright was arrested at SeaTac Airport when he returned from Boston Monday evening. The news spread quickly through Seattle Memorial Hospital. Isabel took a leave of absence, unable to face the gossip and stares. The trial was a media sensation. Cardiologist kills wife by denying treatment dominated headlines. 6-year-old hero saves stepmother ran in every local paper. Noah, now 7, testified in a closed courtroom with Isabel beside him. He explained what he saw in simple, honest words. The jury listened with tears in their eyes as he described trying to save Isabel the only way he knew how, by switching her medicine before his father could. Thomas's defense argued that Noah was a traumatized child with an overactive imagination, that the medication discrepancies were due to Catherine's own non-compliance, that the life insurance was standard practice. But the evidence was overwhelming. The calcium tablets matching atorvastatin in appearance, the life insurance policies, Catherine's diary discovered during the search, which documented her deteriorating health and her confusion about why her medication wasn't working, the financial records showing Thomas's gambling debts and failing investments. The prosecution presented Isabel's testimony about Noah's behavior, the switched pills, the laboratory analysis proving her prescribed medication had been replaced. They brought in pharmaceutical experts who explained how easy it would be for a physician to obtain look-alike tablets. They showed the jury Thomas's computer search history, untraceable methods, medication non-compliance statistics, heart attack survival rates. After 3 weeks of testimony, the jury deliberated for 4 hours. We find the defendant, Thomas Wright, guilty of first-degree murder in the death of Catherine Wright. We find him guilty of attempted murder of Isabel Ferreira Wright. We find him guilty of fraud in obtaining life insurance proceeds through criminal means. The sentencing came 2 weeks later. Life imprisonment without possibility of parole. As the judge read the sentence, Thomas finally showed emotion, not remorse, but rage. He lunged toward where Isabel sat with Noah, screaming, "You turned my son against me! You ruined everything!" Security restrained him, dragging him from the courtroom. Noah buried his face in Isabel's shoulder, trembling. "It's over," Isabel whispered. "He can never hurt anyone again." The adoption process took 6 months. Catherine's parents were deceased, and Thomas's sister, horrified by the crimes, supported Isabel's petition for full custody. "He loves you," Thomas's sister Sarah told Isabel at the final hearing. "In all the hell Thomas put that child through, you showed him what real love looks like. You're his mother now." On the day the adoption was finalized, Isabel took Noah to their favorite ice cream shop to celebrate. As they sat in the sunshine, Noah eating chocolate chip cookie dough with sprinkles, he looked up at me. "Mom?" he said carefully. It was the first time he'd called her just Mom, without qualifiers. "Yes, sweetheart? I'm not scared of medicine anymore."
You're not? Because now I know the medicine is real. You check it at your work, you make sure it's right, you protect people, just like you protected me. We protected each other, Isabel corrected gently. You were so brave, Noah. You saved my life. I wish I could have saved Mommy Catherine too. Oh, honey. Isabel set down her ice cream and pulled him close. You were just a little boy. What happened to your first mommy wasn't your fault. Not even a little bit. You tried to tell her. That was brave and smart. But grown-ups don't always listen to kids, even when they should. You listened, Noah said quietly. Because you're a very smart boy, and I'm a very lucky mom. Later that evening, as Isabel tucked Noah into bed, he asked, Mom, can we visit Mommy Catherine's grave tomorrow? I want to tell her that Daddy can't hurt anyone anymore, and that I have a new mom who loves me. Of course we can, Isabel said, kissing his forehead. We can bring flowers. What kind do you think she'd like? Sunflowers, Noah said with certainty. She always said they were happy flowers. The next morning, they drove to the cemetery with a bouquet of sunflowers. Noah placed them carefully on Catherine's grave and sat for a long moment in silence. It's okay now, Mommy, he finally whispered. Mom, Isabel, and me are safe, and Daddy is in jail forever. You don't have to worry anymore. Isabel knelt beside him, placing her own hand on the gravestone.
Thank you for raising such a brave, loving boy. I promise to take care of him and honor your memory. He'll always know you loved him." As they walked back to the car, Noah slipped his hand into Isabel's. "I have 2 moms now, one in heaven and one with me. That's pretty lucky, right?" "Very lucky," Isabel agreed, her heart full. "And I'm the luckiest of all because I get to be your mom." Epilogue. 3 years later, Isabel stood in the kitchen of their new house, a cozy craftsman in the Ballard neighborhood, far from the Victorian where trauma had unfolded. She was preparing Noah's favorite dinner, homemade chicken tenders with honey mustard sauce. "Mom, I got an A on my science project," 10-year-old Noah burst through the door, waving a paper with a big red A+ circled at the top. "That's wonderful! What was your project about?" "How pharmacists keep people safe by checking medicines." Noah beamed with pride. "I explained how you have to make sure everyone gets the exact right pills and how you use computers to check for bad interactions. Mrs. Peterson said it was the most detailed project she'd ever seen from a 4th grader." Isabel's eyes misted. Her son, because Noah was truly her son now, in every way that mattered, had transformed his trauma into education. He no longer feared medication. Instead, he understood its power to heal when used correctly. "I'm so proud of you," she said, pulling him into a hug. "Mom, you're squishing me." He laughed, but didn't pull away. At dinner, Noah chattered about his friends, his soccer team, his upcoming birthday party. He was a normal, happy child, something that had seemed impossible 3 years ago. Before bed, as Isabel checked that Noah had brushed his teeth and laid out clothes for tomorrow, he hadn't, he said casually, "Hey, Mom, today in health class, we learned how important it is to take medicine exactly how the doctor says." "That's right," Isabel agreed, helping him pick out a t-shirt. "I told the class that my mom is a pharmacist and she makes sure everyone's medicine is safe. I didn't tell them about, the old stuff." Isabel sat on the edge of his bed. "You can talk about it if you ever want to. It's part of your story." "I know," Noah smuggled under his blankets. "But I think my new story is better. The one where I have the best mom in the world who makes sure everyone gets the right medicine, and we eat chicken tenders on Fridays, and nobody is scared of anything." "I think your new story is better too," Isabel whispered, kissing his forehead. "Sweet dreams, my brave boy." "Sweet dreams, Mom. Love you. Love you more." As Isabel turned off the light and closed the door, she paused in the hallway. On the wall was a framed photograph, Isabel and Noah at their adoption ceremony, both grinning widely, her arm around her shoulders. Beside it hung a smaller frame containing a quote Noah had chosen himself. "Heroes don't always wear capes. Sometimes they're just brave enough to tell the truth." Isabel thought about the journey that had brought them here. The fear, the revelation, the justice, the healing. Noah had saved her life by switching pills, by finding the courage to confess what he'd witnessed. In turn, she had saved his by believing him, by fighting for him, by loving him unconditionally. Their family hadn't been formed by blood or traditional bonds. It had been forged in the fire of trauma and tempered by truth, courage, and love. And that, Isabel thought, made it stronger than any other kind of family could be. In his room, Noah drifted off to sleep with a smile on his face, no longer haunted by nightmares of medicine bottles and failing hearts. His sleep was peaceful, protected by the knowledge that he was loved, safe, and home. The prescription for truth had healed them both.